The sky was gray with winter, and Mira's breath rose in thin clouds as she crouched low by the frost-bitten brush, inspecting the tracks. Too wide for a hair, too fresh for her to turn back. She shifted her grip on the bow, knuckles red with cold, and moved on, cloak flapping around her knees. It had been a hungry season, no meat in the snares for days. Her father's voice echoed in her head. "Don't go past the ridge, you'll lose the light." But her village didn't have the luxury of playing it safe anymore. The stores were low. Her sister coughed blood at night. The elders watched her like a promise. So she pushed deeper, where the trees leaned strange and the snow thinned into sickly slush. She followed the prints through root-choked ground until the earth groaned beneath her. Then it gave way. The drop wasn't clean. Branches clawed at her. The bow snapped from her hand, and the impact knocked the breath out of her. Pain flared in her ankle, hot and sharp, as she landed among the leaves and grit. She lay still, dazed, ears ringing. The sky above was a slit of pale light framed by stone. The pit was deep, too deep. She sat up slowly, brushing dirt from her face. Her hunting pack had spilled nearby, and the bow was ruined, splintered clean through. Only her skinning knife remained, tucked at her hip. The walls of the pit loomed around her, steep, slick with moss, roots twisted like veins through damp stone. She tried to climb, first with her hands, then digging in with the knife, but the earth gave way in chunks. She slid back, scraping her palms raw. Again and again. When she fell the third time, she stayed down. Her ankle throbbed. Her breath steamed. The light above was already dimming. She tore a strip from her underskirt to bind the swelling and stood limping to the edge. She called out, once, twice. Her voice didn't echo. It just fell into the quiet and vanished. Then she saw it, a narrow gap in the stone wall, half obscured by hanging roots. A passage, a way forward if not out. She hesitated, fingers tight around her knife, heart racing. The air that seeped from it was colder, and it smelled like rot and wet leaves. But the walls behind her offered nothing. No handholds, no mercy. So she stepped into the dark. The passage sloped down, subtle at first, then steeper. Her footsteps made no sound, muffled by layers of wet mulch and soil. She walked until the light was gone, her hand trailing along the wall. Her ankle ached with each step. Hunger tugged at her belly like a whimpering child. She found no food, no water, just tunnels that twisted and looped like veins under skin. Once she thought she saw light ahead, but it was only the glint of her own breath catching on damp stone. 2 days, maybe 3. Her sense of time unraveled. She slept in short bursts, waking with a jolt, heart pounding, sure she'd heard something just beyond reach. And then, one night, she did hear it. A wet, dragging sound, distant but distinct. Not echoing, following. She held her breath. The sound stopped. Then came a new one, a sniffing. Long, deep, deliberate. She touched her stomach, a dull cramp blooming low in her belly. "No," she whispered. The warmth spread anyway, thick between her thighs. She peeled back the fabric of her skirt. Her fingers came away red. Blood. The scent of it thickened the air, and something, somewhere deeper in the dark, smelled it too. Mira wandered through the dark, her breath shallow, her thoughts cracked and splintering. The pain in her ankle dulled to a constant throb. Her stomach felt hollow, like something vital had been scooped out. Her skirt stuck to her thighs, damp with blood. She didn't know how many days had passed. She chewed bark and licked moisture from moss. Once she found a dead beetle curled near a root. She crushed it between her teeth, barely tasting it. Every step was a prayer to keep moving. If she stopped, she feared she'd never start again. The tunnels curved like intestines, each turn the same. Stones slick with rot, ceilings low and pulsing with mildew. Sleep came in fragments, waking always worse than dreaming. She'd jolt up certain she was not alone, the silence too full, too thick. It started with sounds. Wet steps behind her, always behind. When she paused, they did too. When she ran, they followed faster. She tried hiding. Once she squeezed herself into a hollow beneath jutting rock and held her breath. Something passed. She didn't see it, only smelled it. A rancid cocktail of sweat, old blood, and something darker. Its breath rasped like a dying animal, slow and heavy. It stopped, sniffed, then it moved on. That was the first time she cried. Not from fear, but from knowing it would come again. Later, she found it watching. A tunnel widened briefly, and there it stood, maybe 10 paces off, hulking, misshapen, back bent like broken branches, its arms long, dragging. Its face was all wrong, too flat, the mouth split wide with threads of black drool. The eyes glowed dull red, flickering in the dark like embers. It didn't lunge, just breathed. Deep, nasal inhalations, like a dog on a scent trail. Her scent. She stepped back. It mirrored her. It wanted her to know. She ran. The mace swallowed her again. Her breath tore at her throat, her legs screaming, blood soaking the cloth tied between her legs. She didn't remember where she turned or how long she fled, only that the thing didn't give chase. Not yet. Eventually, she collapsed near a pool of still water, her limbs trembling. She was too tired to cry, too tired to care. The copper stench of herself clung to her skin. Something in her knew. It was marking her path. It was tracking her blood. She woke to a whisper. Not a voice, a sound, the scratch of something against stone. She sat up, clutching her knife, heart slamming her ribs. Across the chamber, something glinted. A hollow in the rock. Inside it, a skeleton. She crawled to it, breath held. Rusted chainmail clung to the bones. Its rib cage had caved in around a dagger lodged between the ribs. She reached out, her hands shaking, and pulled. The blade came free with a rasp. Dull but solid. Better than her knife. Words were carved into the wall behind it. Layers of panic and madness etched until the wall bled. Today it took Kira. It took her over and over until there was nothing left but skin and blood and bones on the ground. And then it took my sanity. Mira stared, the words blurring, bile rising in her throat. She kicked the bones apart. It didn't make her feel better, just less alone in the madness. The thing came again that night. She was resting, curled into herself near a wall, when the air shifted. The silence pulled tight like a held breath. Then she heard it, that slow, deliberate sniffing. Not close, not far, just certain. It had her scent. It always had. She stood, pressing her back to the wall, dagger in hand. The pain in her legs flared. She didn't care. When it entered the tunnel, its bulk scraping roots from the ceiling, Mira lunged. She didn't wait to be hunted. She slashed, caught its wrist. The blade bit deep. It screamed. Not like an animal, like something wrong trying to mimic pain. Its voice split the tunnel and tore down her spine. It staggered back, leaking something thick and black, and she ran before her courage cracked. She found another tunnel, another loop. It never ended. Hope withered in her chest, silent and unnoticed. Escape wasn't coming. This place would be her grave. The realization didn't strike like thunder. It seeped in slowly, quiet and cold, like water soaking through cloth. There would be no rescue. No one would climb down after her. No one would ever know what became of her. She was dying, not all at once, but in layers. Breath by breath, cell by cell. And when the end came, she knew what waited in the dark. It wouldn't be enough for it to find her dead. It wanted her after, but she wouldn't let it. If she was to die here, she would do it with her blade buried deep in its gut. That was all she had left to give, and it would be enough. The chamber was shallow and dry, tucked behind a curtain of hanging roots she barely had the strength to push through. She had been walking without aim, without thought, her feet blistered and raw, her breath ragged, her thoughts distant. Hunger had long since become a constant scream inside her, a voice louder than fear. At first, she thought the figure in the corner was alive. Something about the posture, slumped, almost waiting, but the stench hit her before she crossed the threshold. Rot and mildew. Something long dead. She dropped to her knees beside it, not from reverence or caution, but because her body simply gave out. It had been human once. She could still see scraps of cloth, curled fingers, the gray collapse of flesh clinging to bone. The eyes were gone. The skin was soft, riddled with holes where insects had fed. Whatever it had been, no name remained. Her stomach clenched, not from revulsion, from need. She stared at the corpse, lips cracked, tongue heavy in her mouth. For a long time she didn't move. Her hand rested on the dagger, not as a threat, just habit. She breathed, listened, waited for some voice to stop her. There was none. Her fingers reached out. The skin gave beneath her grip, peeling like fruit rind. The meat beneath was pale and slick, marbled with veins of mold. Her hand trembled as she brought it to her lips. The taste didn't matter. The smell didn't matter. She chewed, swallowed. In her village, they said the body was a shrine, a vessel meant to carry the soul clean into the earth. But when Mira tore flesh from bone and swallowed, she felt it collapse. The last sacred piece of her, gone. She kept eating. A sound rose from her throat. A noise she didn't recognize. Not a sob, not a laugh. Something broken, something ancient. Her hand reached for more. And that was when the air changed. The roots shifted above her. Dust fell from the ceiling in soft clouds. Her body went still. It was here, drawn by the noise, or the scent, or by the final degradation of the last boundary she hadn't yet crossed. She didn't look up right away, just sat there, breath shallow, fingers sticky, the last bite still caught in her teeth. Then she heard it, that deep rattling sniff, long, drawn out, as if tasting her through the air. She rose slowly, legs shaking, bones groaning beneath her weight. The dagger felt heavy in her hand, but it was still hers. The creature stepped into the lightless chamber, ducking beneath the threshold. It didn't charge. It didn't howl. It simply came forward, slow and sure, as if this moment had always been inevitable. She didn't back away. The thing moved to circle her, its fingers twitching with need. The slash of its mouth glistened. Its chest swelled with each breath, pulling in her scent like a beast savoring its kill before the final tear. But she didn't tremble. She didn't run. This would be the end. She had accepted that. The creature lunged. She sidestepped, barely, and drove the dagger up into its side. It roared, a noise that collapsed the roots above them, that shook the stone like thunder underwater. It struck her across the face, sending her reeling. Blood poured from her nose. Her cheek split open. She didn't stop. She stabbed again, catching its leg, then shoulder, then arm. It thrashed, grabbed her by the ribs, and threw her against the wall. She screamed. Something cracked. Still she rose. The dagger dragged a jagged red line across its neck. It clawed at her hip, tore flesh, and she fell again, the blade slipping from her grip. It climbed over her, mouth opening, strings of black saliva dripping onto her chest. She reached blindly, found stone, bone, the hilt of her blade. She drove it into the thing's eye. It screamed in agony. The sound shook her from within. Its body jerked back, convulsing. She twisted the hilt deeper, feeling it scrape bone. It collapsed atop her, heavy and stinking. She shoved, weakly, managed to roll it off. It twitched once, then stilled. She lay beside it, bloodied and broken, every inch of her screaming. She didn't move for a long time. The silence returned, not the hollow hush of waiting, but something final. She looked at the beast's body, the slack jaw, the still tongue, the blood seeping into the earth. It was dead. She had kept it from having her. That was all that mattered. She leaned back against the wall, eyes fluttering. Her breath rattled in her chest. The hunger was still there. The fear would never leave. But for the first time in days, she knew nothing would touch her again. And in this place of rot and ruin, that was peace enough.